I can
Well,
share
this is
it.
Cardo's media, and yes, don't blame the messenger. Yeah.
Yes, good night, my people. Good night, my people. Good night, my people. We have Cardos Media in the house with Mr. Joshua Francis. Guys, we're gonna make it happen. This is it. This is the time.
Yes. Yes.
Tonight is the moment to ask your questions. Listen to what Mr. Joshua Francis has to say. I'm gonna give the floor to Mr. Richie Ricardo so he can continue.
All right.
One.
Good evening to Dominica and to the world by extension, and to our special guest tonight, Mr. Joshua Francis, the UPP's leader. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I am doing well, thank you. Good evening to you and good evening to your brother here, Fidrick.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
And good evening to your listeners, your followers. Everybody
they coming in
with this program tonight. Yes.
Yes, man, they coming in. So I want to jump straight into it. I don't even want to sugarcoat it. I don't even gonna dance around nothing. We're gonna dive into this tonight here.
Yes.
So our first question is, who is Joshua Francis? And
Oh boy.
tell us about the UPP and the inception of the UPP, where that come about. Pull up the question, Fido, let's see it.
Yes, thank you. Very well. This is how many questions here? That's 3 questions, is it? Or 2 questions?
It's 2 questions in one.
Okay, very well. Who is Joshua Francis? Joshua Francis is just a humble man who came from humble beginnings. He loves people. He loves to serve. He loves to care for others. He loves a Dominica where everybody can live with dignity, with pride, with independence, and with happiness. I am originally from the community of Loubier. For Bawa to be more particular, I'm not too sure whether your gentlemen would know that part of the island, but Loubier is on the south coast of Roseau, and Fobawa is just a very small area, not necessarily a hamlet of Loubier, that is on the road from Loubier to the Grand Bay community. So I am from Kalinago descent. My mom is Kalinago, 100% Kalinago, and my father is non-Kalinago. I was raised with my grandparents, my paternal grandparents, that is the parents of my father from since I was a toddler. And I lived all my life in Loubier. I was educated at the community high school. Prior to that, at the St. Luke's School and the Roseau Boys School. And thereafter, Sixth Form College. From Sixth Form College, I attended the University of Central Florida, where I pursued a degree in economics, and then Keller Graduate School of Business, where I pursued a master's degree in business administration. Thereafter, I decided that I wanted to be an advocate, more so not one in court, but for the people of Dominica. And as such, I decided to study law. And I found my way at the University of the West Indies with the benefit of a scholarship from the indigenous community. Back then, University of the West Indies, under the custody of Sir Hilary Beckles, had formed and forged a relationship with the Kalinago chief. As it were, it was Chief Williams. And they were able to hatch out or engineer 6 scholarships annually for indigenous people. And thankfully, I was able to benefit from that scheme. And I went to Kville campus, UWI, and successfully completed my degree in law. And thereafter, I got the scholarship, the FOC Harris Scholarship from the government of Dominica to pursue my legal studies at Woodin Law School in Trinidad. I graduated from law school in May of 2011. And thereafter, I worked full-time at the Dominica State College, where I continued from where I left out. I was teaching finance and economics and business law. And I was also attached to Dyer and Dyer Law Chambers. I did a stint with the Dyers. Yes, I did a stint with her and her chambers for 1 year. And 1 year at the Dominica State College. And then I decided to move on my own and open my own practice, Joshua Francis Chambers, in 2012, thereabout. A year after that, I decided to enter the political arena, and I became the candidate for the United Workers' Party, as it were, in the Roseau South constituency. And of course, the world knows what followed. I became the parliamentary representative for that constituency, and I served as a member of parliament for the people of the Roseau South constituency between 2014 and 2019. In 2019, I did contest the elections again. Unfortunately, I was unsuccessful at the polls, resulting from several factors. Not only electoral irregularities and what many of us have dubbed to be electoral theft, but I had my own issues. I had found myself in unfortunate circumstances that may have affected my credibility and my likability, because when I entered politics, it was not new to me. I've always been a likable person since I was a child. So politics didn't make me into who I am. I came into politics and I continue to be there with the intention to shape politics and not the other way around. And by now you would know that universally, it takes a lot to really go out and add value and be a person of influence to change the status quo. And any one of us who attempt to do that sometimes, we find it very difficult within our own organization and nationally generally. Joshua Francis is a cool, calm, collected individual, not chasing the things of the world, knowing that the things of the world are fleeting. As I always say, I came on this earth naked, and so shall I depart naked. So my intention here is not to accumulate material things. Like all of us, I have to save myself and live a life that is comfortable to be able to give to others. I'm a father of 3 children. I am a divorced individual. 2 children in my marriage and 1 child thereafter, a little toddler. I have since grown my practice from Joshua Francis Chambers to Hajj Law Offices. So my practice is separated from me. My practice is an incorporated entity. So it takes a different legal personality from me. So I have separated the two. I consider that I'm comfortable in my practice. My practice is involved in criminal law, civil law, corporate law. In Morrison Times, I do primarily corporate law from my office. I do criminal law in most cases where I want to help somebody. And I find criminal law to be exciting. I'm not excited about going to court like before. Before I used to look forward to go to court to argue cases, but I guess after a while, people's interests change. Right now, I'm more of a politician and an attorney to some extent in preparation for the next general election. Generally, if you know who Joshua Francis, you will come to learn that he's one of the coolest guys around. He holds no grudges. In his heart has no hate, no specks of darkness. He's just a man who is happy to be alive and a man who is happy to add value to others. As far as the United Progressive Party is concerned, of course, I have given a brief historical political background of Joshua Francis. And I want to inject something to that. Before I contested the election of 2014 for and on behalf of the United Workers' Party, I was considered to be a Labourite. Because I was raised in a family that supported the Dominica Labour Party. A matter of fact, I recall very clearly in 1995, I registered to vote for my first time, and I was part of Mr. Ambrose George, the former parliamentary representative of the Roseau South constituency youth team. I was one of his leading youth representative in the Lubia area and Roseau South by extension. So I had gathered some political experience from being part of his team, going on the ground, listening to the late Ruzi Douglas, who I admired in many ways. I admired his oratory skills and his knowledge. And I voted for the Dominica Labour Party in I think my first time, 95, and then the second time in 2000. And my support for the Dominican Labour Party ended in 2004. Well, 2005. For some reason, I felt that with my friend and brother Roosevelt Skerrit, who I went to Sixth Form College with, that the Labour Party was going to have a new character. I was not in support of the diplomatic change that had taken place at the time. That is, from Taiwan to China, and certain things that I had experienced in the party, some personal experience I had caused me to stop supporting the Dominican Labour Party. By the time I got married to my wife, whose father is Mr. Babs Henry Dyer, a politician himself, a former member of parliament. At the time, he was in the Freedom Party, and he decided to contest the following election from 2005. That was in 2009. He went up for the Dominican Freedom Party in Rosa North. And because of my, of course, involvement in the family and being part of his family, I supported the Dominican Freedom Party in 2009. So you see that I have supported every main political party in Dominica. I supported, the Dominican Labour Party, Dominican Freedom Party, the United Workers Party, and now I'm part of something new, the United Progressive Party. So I have evolved. And I epitomize what we tend to say, change. Change.
Yes.
Is absolute. Yes. The second question.
Change is a must.
Yes. The United Progressive Party, as you would be aware, is a party in its infant stage. The concept of the party came along in 2003. A few of us met and we had a discussion about forming a new political party as a result of our dissatisfaction with what was happening in Dominica. And we felt that the opposition parties which were responsible to cause a change were not doing their best. And we felt that we could make a difference, not necessarily to become the main opposition party and then to form government. Of course, ultimately that has to be the objective of any political party in a democracy. But our aim really was to add value to the politics in Dominica such that we could be an arm to the opposition whereby we could attract labor rights and do what maybe the existing opposition political parties cannot do. So we came together, we had our discussions, we put together a constitution, and then there was a pushback. Once there were talks of the formation of this political party, certain elements within the rank and file of other opposition parties started to push back. If you notice, some people tend to think that they have a monopoly in certain spaces in politics. So we kind of took a rest, because we were not there to cause problems. We were not there for contention, understanding that the political system we have by nature is adversarial. And I learned from an individual, and maybe at some point I will share that with the public because I never did. That individual told me that a leader has to be ruthless. So we could have been ruthless at the time, but we listened and we took a break from the development of the United Progressive Party. But sometime in 2024, after looking at the political atmosphere and paying attention to the political behavior of certain leaders, we decided to come back together, get the party registered, and to get going. So that is where we are right now. The United Progressive Party would be considered to be a green party. The party places a lot of value on environmental conservation and sustainable development. We believe heavily in the environment, understanding that without the cradle of nature, we humans cannot possibly live the best life. And we place a lot of emphasis and value on Dominica being the nature island of the Caribbean. Our party right now, we are not only repeating that, we are deepening that thinking and that brand that Dominica should be the nature island, not just of the Caribbean, but of the world. Because Dominica is blessed with substantial fresh water supply, surface water supply, healthy soils, organic soils, healthy forest and fauna, and flora and clean aquatic systems. So we have a lot going for us, and we have understood that the world, having advanced themselves economically, have caused a lot of destruction to the environment, and in some cases, those destructions are they are so deep that the environment cannot be renewed. I'm looking for the proper environmental word, but taking into consideration all the discussions on climate change, and
let's put a pause there real quick, Doc. Let's put a pause there.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
I have a question to follow up later on in the interview.
Right, sure.
So, as I saw you had a flow and I didn't want to interrupt it, but when you started answering questions I didn't ask, I had to put your stuff to you real quick.
Yeah, you better do that, because
Yeah.
I can go on and on.
So let me ask you this question. It's gonna come a little bit off topic, but
Yes.
really on topic. You said
Yes.
that it's Dominica first.
Mhm.
Dominica first, right?
Yes.
You were once part of the United Workers' Party and the seat and won that seat. That was Roseau South.
Yes.
All right. So you contested Roseau South and you won that seat. But
Yes.
but now you formulated your own party. What caused that major shift from being in the United Workers' Party to now having your own operation, basically?
Well, in 2016, I got embroiled in a public scandal. And that public scandal led to certain consequences within the organization of United Workers' Party and in the nation in respect to me. And when that happened, the leader of the United Workers' Party then felt, with the support of the executive of United Workers' Party, that I ought to have resigned as the deputy leader of the United Workers' Party, because back then I was the deputy leader. I became a deputy leader of United Workers' Party at the delegate conference of 2015. I remember that was at Salisbury. So as a deputy leader, being embroiled in a public scandal, some person felt it was in the best interest of United Workers' Party for me to resign as the deputy leader. And I resisted that decision, because at the end of the day, I had to put self into consideration, self-preservation, because I felt that the allegations which were made or leveled against me, the allegations which caused a charge to be initiated and instituted against me, was founded on lies, and I was not prepared to resign on lies, because I felt that a resignation would imply to the world that what was alleged about me was true. So I resisted the idea of resignation. I stood up for myself. I stood up for my dignity. I stood up for my freedom, and I stood up for my truth. But whilst I stood up, the United Workers' Party decided that they were going to force me out as a deputy leader. And the party went on a journey, on a rampage, to keep the discussion on child abuse as a theme, to the point where the party held a rally or a public meeting in Point Michel with the color purple. Now, as you know, the official color of United Workers' Party is blue.
Yeah.
But some people were so bent on destroying Joshua Francis, on eliminating Joshua Francis. They felt that by going out there and peddling the allegations that were made against me to destroy me politically, to destroy my reputation, and my political equity would erode to zero. So that fight went on, and eventually it was reduced to a special party conference at Maho, where the executive decided to remove me as deputy leader. Now, when that happened, I recall a priest, a senior priest in Dominica, having learned that I was removed as a deputy leader of United Workers Party called me a few minutes after I had walked out from the convention of the United Workers Party on that given day. And he said to me that I should not leave the United Workers Party, and at the next meeting I should appear. And we reasoned out, and part of his reasoning was, do not do like Julius Timothy. I remember that clearly. And I asked him, what do you mean? He said, when Julius Timothy had certain issues with the United Workers Party, whether justified or not, he stayed away, and eventually he left the party, and we know this story. So he said, don't leave the party. Stay there. You're a leader. You're a man of courage. You're a man of valor. You know your truth. God is with you. Don't leave the party. So I stayed in the party, but some people never made me feel welcome. There was still, you know, that kind of negativity, undercurrents, undermining. But irrespective of that treatment which I received, in the interest of Dominica, I decided to avail myself to contest the 2019 election. So I reconciled with the party, certain individuals and members of the party that were consistent in trying to expel me from the party, because I must mention that not only I was removed as a deputy leader, but there was a motion moved to actually expel me from the party. So in all the adversities, I stayed in the party.
Oh, wow.
I contested the election of 2019. Wow. Some people, some family members.
They just didn't like your style.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm no saint, but I can put on public record that some of the actions that were taken against me were unjustified, and they were fueled by what I now consider to be jealousy. When I entered the party, of course, my popularity skyrocketed. I naturally, I mean, I'm not going to gloat or blow my trumpet, but it's on record. I became extremely popular in Dominica to the extent that people were calling Joshua is the next PM, Joshua is the man, make Joshua the leader. And I think that certain executive members within the organization felt that I was a threat. You know, I just entered the party and I gained that popularity. So the relationship between me and certain executive members was never on a proper footing. So by 2019, I contested the election, as I said earlier. I was unsuccessful. Of course, the United Workers Party was reduced to 3 seats in parliament. And after that, you know, I did make a public announcement that I was taking a break from politics. And I came back, I said I was taking a break, because keep in mind, during that time, my personal life was not in a good place. You saw me on political platforms. I was campaigning, but in my personal life, I was going through a lot of turmoils. You know, it is no secret that my divorce became public.
Step back.
Right. So it took a lot from me to stay in the United Workers Party and to help the party form the government in Dominica. So I carried a lot of hurt from within the organization and in my personal life. And I recall sometime in 2022, I was in a private conversation with one friend and his acquaintances. And certain remarks I made were recorded by a particular individual, and he discharged those statements in the public domain. And back then I had made a remark about Mr. Linton. So because of those remarks, the United Workers Party executive met, and discussions were whether Joshua should be expelled from the party. So another motion was moved to expel me from the party, but the majority executive members said, no, let us suspend Joshua. So I was formally informed by the party's executive that I was suspended subject to investigations. And sometime in 2022, late 2022, a few selected members of the United Workers Party executive met with me via Zoom and asked me certain questions concerning those remarks I had made about the leader of the United Workers Party. And my understanding is that they went back, they gave their report to the executive or the management team of the United Workers Party. And to date, no formal decision was never made. But a few months after that meeting with those executive members, I took it on my own. And for some time, I'd even forgotten, it's a friend who brought it to my attention, that I had written the executive of the party to say that I was resigning from the party. And that decision was taken because it was clear that certain members of United Workers' Party did not want me in the party. They preferred that I stayed out of the party's business. So basically, I felt I cannot fight to be in an organization to fight for the nation. I could not be my best self.
Your best.
So I left the party, and here I am right now. I'm in the United Progressive Party. It's a platform that is clean. There's no confusion. Of course, you're going to find differences or variances in opinions amongst members in any organization. But to this date, I can say publicly that I have not experienced any undermining, undercurrents, treachery, betrayals. You know, I have not experienced those things. So I'm grateful.
Wow. I just pull up a comment. One of the viewers posted a comment that says, past history has given precedent to the unwarranted attacks on Dr. Fountain. Thus, reason persons should cease and desist from those unwarranted attacks on Dr. Fountain, since he did not engineer the problem that existed. Let's go a little higher up. It said, thanks for being so transparent, Mr. Francis. This is how you heal yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, gentlemen, it's interesting. Some things I said there tonight is the first time I'm saying it on public record.
Wow.
When I was going through that period, when I was going through that period of turmoil in my life after the scandals erupted, I had an opportunity to defend myself, both in the organization and the organization United Workers' Party and the public. I never did. I took blows, I absorbed it. I took blows, I took blows. People call me traitor. I heard the worst things about me, and those were orchestrated and pushed by certain persons within and outside the United Workers' Party. And whilst I'm on that, I remember in 2022, a gentleman came to my office to inform me he was paid to go on social media to attack me.
Wow.
so those were the kind of things that I went through. And I never spoke bad about the United Workers' Party to this date. It's not my intention to. I met the party, as it were. I gave my heart, my soul. I mean, every honest person in Dominica should know that I lost my family because of politics.
Yeah.
I stood up for myself when the scandal broke out. It cost me my family. And that to me is the greatest sacrifice other than death itself that a politician can pay. Going to jail is one thing. We have had several politicians who went to jail and became leaders, Nelson Mandela, Rosie Douglas, right here in our country. But when a man loses his family, he cannot see his children on a daily basis. He has to struggle to get access to his children, especially a man who loves his children. That was painful. And I think that too many leaders who are around me did not understand. They did not put themselves in my shoe to see the pain that I was going through. If anything, they tried to bury me, you know, but all that is history. I think Dominicans are seeing who was the troublemaker, who was the you know, I don't want to say bad person, but I think
the antagonizer.
Right. So we are seeing how things have turned out, and we can draw our own conclusions. It's not my job to go out there to say anything about anybody, you know, because that's not my focus. My focus right now is to contribute towards the movement to change the government in Dominica. It has always been that, and it continues to be that. After all, I'm an attorney. I don't have to be in politics. I have paid a lot. As a matter of fact, some family members are giving up on me because they said, but Joshua, why would you want to do that?
Let me ask another question here now.
Yes.
I see you're starting a new party.
Yeah.
People are concerned and asking, are you going to be including younger people or young people into your party structure so that the young people can then feel connected to the party? Or are you going to go and find some old people from somewhere in the background and bring them back to the forefront? Is that what you intend to do, or how are you planning on putting together your party structure so the people of Dominica can then feel we have a voice in your organization?
Well, let me say that the party has an open door policy to every Dominican of every background and every strata of our social pyramid. The young people are the gem of a nation. They are the most precious gem that we have in terms of our human resource base. The future belongs to them. But likewise, we also need older people, people with the experience, people who can counsel, people who can lead and guide. I of course would like to see more young people involved in politics. We do have a few young persons. Recently, a gentleman volunteered. I didn't go to the P7 constituency to look for him. The gentleman understanding where Dominica is and having to go through a journey thus far that has, to some extent, suppressed his dreams. He felt that the United Progressive Party is the party that he wanted to be part of. And I'm praying and hoping that as time goes by, more young persons, more young people who want that change will become leaders on the United Progressive Party platform. And we not only we have a young candidate for the P7 constituency, we have a youth coordinator, and we have a few young people within the rank and file of the party. And we continue to encourage young people to come in. But we also encourage seasoned people to come in as well, because the young people need guidance. After all, we have had a prime minister who was very youthful when he took up the position of prime minister, and we see where we are in Dominica. So I understand the call for young people, and we need young people, especially young advocates, young followers, young supporters. But the management of a country requires more than youth. It requires experience. It requires wisdom, and wisdom tends to come with age. So in as much as we want young people, I like that we have a mix. We have the elders who can call me up and say, Joshua, I think you're going on the bad road. You know, call up other members of the party and say, Joshua, your position cannot possibly be in the best interest of Dominica. But I understand the call for young people. I have been taking note of people who have been critical of the opposition in that they have the view that we're not attracting young people. But as I tell people, when I was a youth, in the 90s particularly, I had a zeal for knowledge. I read. I enjoyed listening to politicians. If there were public meetings in my community, I took it on my own to go and listen. When the public back then could access parliament, I went there. From sixth form college, I used to go to parliament to listen. I read the newspapers. That, as it were, in the 90s. But young people now have a different mindset. So we as leaders now, we have to find a way to get the message to the young people. I mean, of course, there are always exceptions, but generally it appears that less young people are interested in dialogue and social change and debates and panel discussions. You know, I think that sometimes the criticisms of the opposition parties are unfair, because if you truly understand the dynamics within our population, you would appreciate that one of the reasons why the opposition parties have not been able to attract that many young people or even new faces is because of the realities in Dominica. Young people have fear that if they align themselves with opposition parties, they may lose a job, or they may not get a job, they may not get a scholarship, their parents may not get help. And that's the reality that is in Dominica right now. So younger people have that fear. Yes, they may be not as as conscious as younger people of the 80s and 90s. Maybe that is true, but generally younger people have fear in joining the opposition forces. Younger people like a good time. So some people will say, well, try to get Triple K to be part of a rally, and the young people will come, and maybe that is true. But would Triple K accept the opposition money to go and play for them? Maybe not.
An invitation.
You know, maybe not. So time will tell. Yes.
All right.
Okay.
And that's a question.
If the UPP, what are the top five priorities in the first 2 years? What will be your first 5 things to try and get together for the first 2 years?
Well, number one, the public service needs to be reshuffled. The public service forms the largest employment base in Dominica. The government is the main employer in Dominica. And the government sector is a very important component or engineer for growth, economic and social growth in the country. And therefore, under our leadership, we would have to restructure and redo the public service. We need to remove the waste. As we speak, there are advisors to the Prime Minister, individuals who retired from politics being paid. That is a waste. We have to get rid of those waste. We have people who are trained in finance, serving as PSCs in certain ministries that have nothing to do with their studies. We have technocrats in certain ministries who are not in accord with what they are being asked to do. So we have to change those things. So that has to be a priority. And the reason for that basically is to increase or improve productivity and efficiency within the public service. With an increase in efficiency within the public service, Dominica will benefit because it means that the government of Dominica will have more resources to allocate in other areas, which are priority areas. We'll have more for agriculture, more for education, tourism, to name a few. And generally, that will help to improve the mindset and the work psyche, the labor force psyche, because it is being said that Dominicans have become lazy, have become very casual, have become nonchalant. Nobody's in a hurry. Nobody wants to do work. People walking into the public service at 8:30, by 3:45, they're out. So we have to change that. And we have seen certain countries where certain laws and regulations were able to change the mindset or the work mindset of the people. If you look at the model in Singapore, you will realize that it took changes in laws and effectiveness of the laws to bring a change in the mindset of the people. So I believe that is number one. Number two, we want to be known as a job party. Nobody's going to get prosperous in Dominica until and unless we have jobs that can make us prosperous. A matter of fact, yesterday I had a conversation with some young people and we were talking about jobs. And one told me that Dominica's economic system is not designed for young people to grow. And that statement kind of caught my attention. And I reflected on that statement. And I see a lot of merit in that point. Because when you look at it, it is a very profound statement that Dominica's economic system is not designed for young people to prosper. Think about it. You leave school at 18, you go out there, you pursue a degree, a master's degree, you come back to Dominica, you get an average salary of $4,000. Let's say you enter the public service with a master's degree, you may get $5,000. If you go to the private sector, you may get $8,000. Let's just say the average salary for somebody with a master's degree or even a PhD is somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000. Think about it. That individual, he did not inherit land from his parents, so he has to acquire a portion of land. You're here with me? Then he has to take a mortgage. He has to buy a car. So
yeah, we here with you. We here with you.
Right. So we have to create a Dominica where jobs are created. Now, how are we going to create those jobs? As I said to you, if we make the public service more efficient, we'll have more money to allocate to growth engines in the country. We could allocate more money to agriculture, where we can make agriculture more attractive again. I see the government right now trying to create and dangling, create a situation for young people to go to the farm. And we've already been critical of that policy because we see the shortcomings in it. The UPP believes that people have to work. Any country where people are not working, then that's a problem. That country is not going to prosper. It will stay stagnant and idle. For Dominica to grow, we must put people to work. So UPP already is being dubbed because every time we go in the public space, I tell people, look, this is a job party. Now, keep in mind, from an economics point of view, when jobs are created, people become more productive. Naturally, salaries are going to increase. Salaries will increase because that's a problem in Dominica. We have a very high working poor population. Yes, people have their nice cars and they have their nice housing in Mont Daniel and in Wallows, but people have difficulties with cash. A lot of Dominicans do not have cash. If there's an emergency where cash is needed, most Dominicans would fail. There is a cash problem. Now, the reason why we have a cash problem is because of inflation. Now, universally, inflation increased after COVID, but some countries have successfully deflated their inflation. Here in Dominica, we have not seen that. And we have not had a government with the foresight and the understanding to cause inflation to drop to the point where food becomes more affordable. So the United Progressive Party is of the view that we must create a Dominica where food becomes more affordable. Now, keep in mind, no previous government, particularly the Dominica Labour Party government, has really placed much emphasis and enough emphasis on self-reliance. It is not impossible for Dominica to become more self-reliant. We have to eat, we have land. And when you speak of agriculture, we tend to think of money. But UPP believes that there is a very strong relationship between agriculture and health. And therefore, that has to be a priority area. We are of the view that certain parts of Dominica should be disclosed as organic zones. So that has to be a priority for the UPP. Now, another priority is youth development. And under that, we talk about youth employment. We're talking about improving the recreational facilities and number of recreational facilities for young people. We have a number of talented people in different sport disciplines. We have people who are talented in cricket, football, to name a few. We believe that any responsible government must place more emphasis on sports development, on talent development. We have a very rich cultural heritage. The UPP believes that we have to get the right leaders in those areas to not only save our heritage, but to improve it, to enhance it, especially younger people coming in, get them to understand. So that definitely would be part of our agenda. And I must tell you, you know, as part of the immediate policies that we would implement is agro-processing. It is really inexcusable that in Dominica, we do not have factories to process breadfruit, bananas. You know, I mean, when you look at Barbados, you go to Barbados, you get Pine Hill juice. Barbados is just a flat area. No offense to the island of Barbados, but when you look at Barbados compared to Dominica, as far as soil, water, there is no reason why Dominica should not have little factories, agro-processing factories, to take care of the mangoes that we seasonally, the guavas. You know, so that definitely would be a priority. In the area of foreign policy, UPP would have to reconsider where we are. There has to be a discussion with the Chinese embassy, with the government of China. To this date, the people of Dominica never fully comprehended what is the MOU, what is the contractual terms and references, the diplomatic positioning between Dominica and China. And I believe the people of Dominica deserve more transparency in government. And therefore, within the first 6 months of governance in this country, I believe that the Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister, has to make that a priority to basically understand, look at what went down between China and Dominica in 2004 and thereafter, and to come out and tell the public where we are. Of course, you must understand, on a diplomatic position, no Prime Minister is going to say everything for the purpose of national security. But to keep the country in darkness, it is not fair and it's not right. UPP believes in transparency, we believe in accountability, and we believe in openness. And therefore, that will be a priority for the new administration in Dominica.
Mr. Francis, I want to ask you this question because you went into a whole lot of stuff there, but it's in line with the question as well. But I want to know, what specific sector would you invest in if all of our external funding would just stop immediately, and why?
Well, I think that Dominica must go back to agriculture. Agriculture is a bedrock for all economies in the world. Feudal societies, middle-aged societies, modern societies. Agriculture has always been a bedrock component. And therefore, Dominica should be no exception. And why should we go back to agriculture? As I said, not only for the purpose of exports, we have to feed the nation. food security has taken a higher level on the international agenda. The United Nations have predicted that the price of food will continue to increase, and in some countries, food affordability will increase. Dominica has to take that into consideration and to provide the necessary environment to increase food production. And in doing that, not only we are improving food security, but we are putting our people to work. The rural economies of Dominica have collapsed. And why has that happened? Because the government of Dominica never really had an economic plan for rural development. Yes, the technocrats go to the meetings, the ministers go to the meetings, they speak the language, but we have never effectuated any rural economic policy. And because the banana industry collapsed, the government of Dominica never replaced or caused any other form of development in those rural places. And therefore, for me and for the United Progressive Party, the insertion of more funds in agriculture is a must, a must. And not only that, we need to build food banks. If you pay attention to what's happening, look at Guyana. Guyana has now been declared and accepted as the only self-reliant country in the world.
Exactly.
Meaning that it can close its ports and its people will prosper. That's what it means. I mean, of course, they would want to export the oil and minerals to get the money. But why is Guyana considered to be so self-reliant? It goes back to agriculture. The government in Guyana understands the importance of food security. And with the monies that it generates from now that it has discovered oil, it has been able to use that to develop its people. So I believe in Dominica, likewise, that has to be critical. Now, keep in mind, you have been hearing a lot of discussions about environmental protection. And that has, as I said from the onset, the United Progressive Party is a green party. And we believe more must be done for environmental protection and environmental conservation. So that has to be a priority. So whilst we are pushing agriculture, and not just any agriculture, because within agriculture itself, we have to decide what are we going to do. Animal husbandry, what crops are we going to grow? Where are we going to grow them? Under what circumstances? And that involves training people, having markets, having storage facilities, having food banks, to name a few.
Definitely. And as you touched on this environmental, was it protection?
Yes,
or preservation?
And conservation.
Yes. So where do you draw in the line between economic development and environmental protection, and who decides the line?
Well, as I said, we believe in sustainable economic development. The country has several pieces of legislation which can facilitate economic development whilst conserving the environment. The Physical Planning Act is a piece of legislation that provides a framework for us to develop Dominica, but conserving our environment or mitigating or minimizing environmental degradation. We have regulations in respect to our rivers that tells us how to use our rivers to avoid deforestation or tampering water catchment areas that would cause our water table to drop. We have a Forestry Act. We have a National Park Act. We have Marine Reserve Act. Now, why do we have all those pieces of regulations and legislation? It is there to help us to control ourselves, not to get over ourselves and simply plant and grow and concretize the nation without thinking of how we are doing it. Now, for that to happen, we have to empower the stakeholders to become more responsible, to have a greater sense of appreciation for the environment, to be more visionary, to be more futuristic, because most of us take it for granted that Dominica will always have rivers. I was once a geography teacher, and my last lesson I taught was in a class, room 403, and that class was on rivers. And I remember telling my students that all the rivers in Dominica were once the water volume were much higher. But over the years, because of deforestation, because of concretization and or urbanization, the water volume, water velocity, the water table have dropped. Deforestation in catchment areas. When we had the green gold era, the cultivation of bananas, some farmers without proper regulations or not being regulated, found themselves in water catchment areas growing bananas. So naturally, when we expose the soil and the water table to the sun, there's going to be an increase in evaporation, less water interception when it rains, and we have, resulting factors.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to ask you this question, yes, what governance reform would UPP introduce to improve accountability and transparency?
Well, first of all, we need to revamp the existing legislation and organization which are responsible for accountability and transparency in Dominica. So in the United Progressive Party, we have the view that we must have a more direct piece of legislation speaking to corruption. We should have an anti-corruption act. Now the IPO, Integrity in Public Office, supposed to have served some kind of purpose in fighting corruption in Dominica. So the UPP believes, one, to enact an anti-corruption act that would speak directly to the consequence of corrupt, or for those who are corrupt in public service. Jail time, serious jail time. We believe by just having the law, it would deter public servants from stealing and cheating. Number two, we have to get the right operators of FIU. It's been alleged that persons in FIU who are supposed to be investigating financial crimes themselves may have been compromised. Whether that has merit or not is questionable, but we can say as a fact, we are not aware that any public official in Dominica has been brought to court to answer the question as to where he or she obtained money to do certain things. We know it's on public record. The public know that there are several persons who are fronting for certain political leaders. They buy property, they build mansions, and the FIU has shown no interest in investigating anybody. Then we have the IPO. We are aware that when Mr. Linton, the former leader of the United Workers' Party, made a complaint against the Prime Minister in respect to property in Portsmouth and some other acquisition, the IPO legislation was changed. Remember, the IPO at one time had 5 members. Now it has 3 members. No, it had 7 members and moved to 5, and certain changes occurred, basically to remove the teeth that the IPO had. Then we have an issue here. The Westminster system provides for the Prime Minister as the executive head to advise the President of Dominica as to who to be appointed at the IPO, the Electoral Commission, and other statutory bodies in Dominica. So naturally, because things have changed, people have become less independent. They are now doing the bidding of the government and the Dominica Labour Party. The United Progressive Party will definitely, from day one, remove some of these operators from these institutions. Because even me as a leader in a new government, I will be subject to the new laws. If I transgress the laws and betray the people of Dominica, break the public trust, either by stealing or facilitating corruption, I should be under the hammer. In Dominica, nobody goes under the hammer. A matter of fact, when reports are made, corruption reports are made, it is they're thrown under a table. And we have seen some kind of selective justice in Dominica. I have no fear in saying that even the police, which is responsible to be part of the fight against corruption, sometimes is part of the problem. And it's clear for us to see. Nowadays, you're hearing police stealing firearms to sell. You're hearing that police, based on who you are, will not put you in a cell. A police will pick up a man to put him in a cell, and he gets a call and says, oh, don't put that person in the cell, release him. That is the Dominica that we have now. We need a political leader who is very firm, who is serious, and who puts the country first. And I can say to you that in the United Progressive Party, we leave no room. We have zero tolerance for corruption, because corruption has affected Dominica considerably. Yeah, I mean, just you look at the CBI as an example. The CBI program in Dominica has caused several leaders in the Dominica Labour Party to benefit at the expense of the people of Dominica. Some people have become multimillionaires through the CBI program, right? Whilst the average or ordinary person in Dominica hasn't really felt the benefits. So those things have to change. And I want to put on public record that the day will come when those ministers and public servants who have stolen from the people of Dominica will account. Not only they will account before God, but a change of government definitely will cause forensic investigations to be pursued. And those wicked people will be brought to justice. And I use the word wicked because some of these people, they have no hearts. You know, it's like their heart is like a bottomless pit when it comes to money.
Would you get rid of the CBI program?
The CBI program at some point has.
Would you get rid of the program, the CBI program?
The CBI program will get rid of itself. It's well on its way. It was never meant to be a permanent program. Think about it. If every year you sell 5,000 citizenships, within 15, 20, 30 years, you're going to quadruple your own indigenous population. Which right-thinking leader is going to do that? And I think that is where most leaders thus far, most of this current prime minister is very myopic. There's no thinking about the future. Every time you sell a citizenship, you are basically making another person a Dominican. We live in a very dynamic world. We don't know for sure whether these economic citizens will not want to come to Dominica to seek refuge. If we have sold about 60,000 passports to foreign nationals up to this date, and there's a third world war, and these people decide, because of the global turmoil, they go into Dominica as a fortress to protect themselves and their family. Imagine 10,000 of these wealthy people, not even all that, 100 of these wealthy people come to live in Dominica. They will multiply what is already happening to us. They will buy off Roseau. We have a situation, a demographic change taking place in Roseau. And while some of us talk about it, most people don't talk about it. Soon, ordinary Dominicans will not be able to acquire a portion of land in Roseau. It's happening already. When land is being sold at $500 a square foot in Roseau, who are the Dominicans going to afford that? And even where lands are being offered, being offered for $300, $400 a square foot. So a foreign national will come and offer the vendor twice as much, and he walks away with the land.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So imagine these economic citizens coming to Dominica, just 100. They will buy off Roseau, they will buy off land in the rural places, they will get the cream of the crop, and local Dominicans will be further pushed out. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that I think of.
Yeah.
And I'm of the view that we should have had a ceiling for the number of passports that we would have sold. And given the problems that Dominica has been embroiled in, resulting from the mismanagement of the CBI program, I think that is enough to justify its end. But sadly, from an economic realistic point of view, we cannot just shut down the program because Dominica has already become dependent on revenues from CBI. So if right now we take office, we cannot be reckless and simply say we're shutting down the program. There must be a period for transition. Now, one of the big mistakes this government made, unlike St. Kitts, is the revenues from the CBI program were not used in growth engine areas except the construction of those hotels. But constructing hotels alone is not going to bring economic transformation because the hotels are meant to accommodate foreigners or visitors. And the visitors coming to Dominica, who are they? Where are they going? How much money are they spending? So those are the questions that UPP must examine and get proper advice, listen to those who are trained in different areas in respect to the economy, and take the best advice in the interest of the people of Dominica.
I want to ask you that question. I see a comment, somebody made a comment. It said, what's your idea on the present increase of wages for the leader and his people? If you are voted in, are you going to do something about that?
Well, of course. We have to review the salaries of every Dominican or all Dominicans, to be more correct, and the leaders are no exception. A couple of years ago, the leaders enjoyed over 100% increase in salary and benefits, while ordinary public servants just enjoyed 1, 2, 3% increase over a 5-year span. So, as I said earlier, for me, I'm a servant. I am not into politics to enrich myself. And those who are around me know that. I give more than I get out of politics. I give away money, I give away time. And with that DNA, I would expect that in entering into governance. because there's a saying that by their fruits you shall know them. So you have to examine who I am and know that I'm not the kind of guy who are in this styling and profiling. I'm not just trying to travel around the world and, you know, walk with a Rolex and drive fancy cars and fly on jets. No, what we have seen is certain leaders in Dominica seem to have taken interest in those kind of lifestyles. So they have taken care of themselves. They have caused increases in salaries for themselves, but too little attention has been given to the people of Dominica. So the answer would be the affirmative. Now, let us be honest. We would have to also look at the salaries of other political leaders in the region. The last time I checked, Dominica was still average and still lower than some of our leaders in other countries. But the argument against that is in the other countries, the price levels are higher. On average, people are earning more money is in circulation. And some people are still questioning, why do we have 21 constituencies? Why do we need 18 ministers of government? And I do agree. I don't think that Dominica should be controlled and governed by more than 12 ministers of government. And if you examine those ministers we have right now, you can see they're not really producing. They're not producing. You know, not very often, apart from the Prime Minister and the Honorable Blackmore, that you will hear a minister of government giving reports on his portfolio. And even when the journalists ask soft questions, because our journalists here tend to ask soft questions, and maybe Richie and you, Mr. Benjamin, should come to Dominica to ask the hard questions. Even then, the ministers, you can listen to their response. You know, it's like, it's not anything to make you think. I mean, this country just needs an overhaul.
Yeah,
I am with you on that one. I have another question or a statement I heard. Recently, I heard that it's time for a Kalinago leader, a Kalinago prime minister. Do you think you are going to be that person for that title?
Well, I would love to have that title. Let me just say, in 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 23, I had no interest in becoming a prime minister of Dominica. Being a prime minister for a country like Dominica must be extremely stressful.
Yes, I believe so.
The political culture we are developing in Dominica is one where persons are expecting
Is he frozen, Fido?
yeah, he's the network lag there, so he's buffering still. We'll see what maybe give me a minute. Let's see if he get back on track.
Okay. Someone asked, what is Dominica's GDP? What are we exporting versus what are we importing?
Importing, yeah, just the checking that one.
Lock him off and then let him come back in again.
Yeah.
We're sorry about the bad connection here with my people. Once we get him back on the live, we will bring him back in.
Yeah, he'll come back in.
I think our conversation this afternoon is very much needed because it shows how even in your political party that you're supposed to be representing, the people are supposed to stand with you, how they victimize you, how they turn their back on you because of, you know, of things that they hear or things that come out in the public. Here he goes again.
Yeah, gentlemen, yeah, sorry about that's my internet acting up. I don't know if it's the spirit of the Kalinagos that do not want me to answer that question. Yeah, but I was saying that I had no interest.
Again. Again.
Yeah. I guess the spirit of the Kalinagos don't want you to answer that one there.
Yeah.
They don't want you to answer that one there. Tala.
But that's very interesting. You know, that's very interesting, Gado. You brought that up because if we look at it really and truly, have we ever had a person of Kainago descent or strong Kainago descent be the Prime Minister of Dominica? You know. And then we have to ask this question: why not?
Why not? But you see,
Why?
I gonna make a statement tonight here now. They're gonna be choking on some of them Dominican people and people and all of us in general. I think that we have put the Kalinago people on a back burner on the island of Dominica. I'm sorry. We were waiting for you to come back in. So we were
Yes, yeah, no problem. So I was saying to you that it never occurred to me, in spite of the number of prophecies that were, or blessings of being a prime minister, I always rejected it. A matter of fact, I want to put on public record that in 2015, two prominent people walked into my office, and that is, I had my office on 7 Cross Street, Roseau. And after my success as a candidate for the United Workers' Party in the Roseau South constituency in becoming the new PAL rep, those two prominent men said, Joshua, you are the man to lead UWP. We are going to help you become the new leader and the Prime Minister of Dominica. And I said to them that I was not interested. I told them that, number one, that the current leader, as it were, had taken only one shot at the apple. He needed another bite.
Yes.
And secondly, I was not prepared. I was not prepared mentally. I was not prepared emotionally. I just was not prepared to be the leader of United Workers' Party. And one of the men, coincidentally, who is a medical doctor, said to me, I'm happy that I came to your office, and you're right, you're not ready. And I said, what do you mean? He said that you are lacking a very important quality as a leader. And I asked him, what's that? And he said, you are lacking ruthlessness. Because he felt that I was there protecting the current leader. I was in the current leader's corner, and I wasn't thinking of myself. That is the Joshua Francis that lives. A gentleman who never necessarily wants to be at the forefront. I am on the forefront today, and I would not mind being the Prime Minister. Of course, that is for the people of Dominica to decide. For the very reason that I know that as a Prime Minister, Dominicans' lives will be much better. And that will start with me and my lifestyle. I don't need to live in any residence where I am taking over $60,000 from Dominica's purse to live a lavish lifestyle. I don't need that. A matter of fact, I admire leaders of the past, leaders that considered themselves to be socialists or you know, are we there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yes, my internet is unstable. So somebody like Ruzi Douglas had his strengths, he had his weaknesses, but he showed humility in office. Even Mr. Edison James, Dame Eugenia Charles, they showed humility in office. And that's how I would be a humble leader. So that money that currently is being spent for the Prime Minister's residence would not be in my world. Definitely not. And I believe that I would take Dominica very seriously. I would put Dominica first. I would put the people of Dominica first. I will ensure that rule of law once again finds favor in Dominica, because the rule of law in Dominica has more and more become a stranger to governance. And the evidence is written on the wall. We have the construction of the international airport, the largest infrastructural project in the history of Dominica. And to this date, there's no evidence that the contractor and builders of the international airport followed the law. We are not aware that there was any EIA or any environmental assessment report whatsoever that was submitted to the planning division for assessment, and the planning division gave a go-ahead. We see what's happening at Dubois as an example. We see what's happening with the Electoral Commission and the electoral process in Dominica in respect to suspension of registration of voters. So that is the kind of government that we have had, a government that has been very casual in complying to our laws. We for United Progressive Party, and with me as a leader, I will ensure that we have a no-nonsense police commissioner, police service commission, in the electoral commission office, integrity in public office, members, FIU, FSU, and all other statutory bodies responsible for governance in Dominica. I think that is critical, because until and unless we get people to follow laws, that itself is going to affect the development of Dominica. And then again, as I said, we have an economic plan. There's a saying that no one brain contains all wisdom.
All the answers.
So I am the kind of person who listens. I'm prepared to work with people who are genuine, people who are honest, and people who have integrity to develop Dominica. And there are still a few of us like that. There are still a few of us who put people first, who would give our shit, take our shit from our back and share and give it to somebody else. And that's the kind of life I have lived. So this is not something that's far-fetched. This is not something I'm saying because I feel like saying it, because I want listeners to feel good. I have lived a life of humility. From since I was a child, it was very easy to share. I never feel that something is too much to share, especially food. So as a prime minister, definitely my sole and ultimate priority would be to bring betterment for people in Dominica, to grow the private sector, to make the public sector more efficient, to revamp the economic areas in the rural places of Dominica, to conserve our environment, to produce and start exporting again, to make Dominica attractive so that we can mitigate brain drain, and to cause our young people who are abroad to come back to Dominica, to get our people in the diaspora to come to retire in Dominica. I think the population of Dominica would increase naturally with my leadership, because Dominica would become more attractive. Living in Dominica would become better. Nobody wants to stay in a country where they are struggling, they cannot pay a mortgage, they cannot even buy a portion of land. Nobody wants to stay there. When they get sick, they're afraid that if they go to the hospital, that they may not return alive. That's the reality here. Our healthcare service is broken. Our public service is broken. We need to fix those things. And no leader who is not serious is going to get that job done. In me, you find seriousness. And as I said, definitely putting the country first would cause Dominica to be in a better place.
You touched on my question I was going to ask you next. What is your vision for strengthening Dominica's healthcare system?
Well, first of all, I look at the healthcare system from a qualitative point of view. The healthcare system is made up of the hardware aspect, the physical infrastructure. Of course, we have seen an improvement in the physical infrastructure of the Dominica Chinese Friendship Hospital. Some people don't like to say that. They like to say the Princess Margaret Hospital, because they feel that in the first place we should not have had that name. We have also seen the development of clinics in certain areas, a smart clinic. So that's good. But the qualitative part of the healthcare service has suffered. Even with this new hospital authority board, we have not seen any significant improvement in the dispensation of health services. Now, how are we going to improve that? Number one, we need to retain our trained medical doctors or service providers, including medical doctors. I'm aware that last year we lost 2 consultants in Dominica, one of whom is my friend. She left because she felt that her salary was too low. When she thought of her colleagues in neighboring islands getting twice, and in some cases 3 times as much that she was earning in Dominica, and she was struggling financially, she felt it was time to go. So with a new government, a new administration, new leadership, that is one of the first items we must tackle in the healthcare service. We have to make salaries more palatable, more attractive. How do you do that? You have to increase your salaries. Again, when you get rid of the waste in the public service, you'll have more money to allocate for higher salaries to nurses and to medical doctors. And not only that, we need to provide more employment benefits to those nurses and doctors. Generally, we need to make working in Dominica more attractive. So we need to retain those we have and to attract those we have abroad into Dominica. I believe that in view of the global architecture where people can leave one place and find themselves in another place over a few hours, given that we have so many medical doctors in the United States of America, we may not get them to be dislodged from the US and come back here full time, but we could have visitors, you call that visitors doctors, where they come in at a certain time of the year to do surgeries, to perform certain procedures, to examine certain patients, because we don't have enough specialty medical practitioners here. But we have a lot in the diaspora. And that takes me to a very important component of the United Progressive Party's vision. We believe we need to establish a brain bank where, as DASPA, not DASPA, as DAS had done many years ago, where a database of Dominica's professionals was developed to record different professionals in different disciplines. We need to tap into a brain bank where we can ask medical doctors to come in, provide a service, whether it's for 2 weeks, when they take vacation from their work in England or the United States or wherever they are, to come and provide that service. So I believe that is very critical. Then in primary healthcare, we need to improve that. We need to go back to the rural clinics, equip them with the necessary facilities, and again, to station nurses who are willing to do the work. One of the problems, apart from we losing nurses and medical doctors, is that a lot of our healthcare practitioners are demoralized. You're hearing Dominicans complaining about the type of service they get at the hospital. Nurses are grumpy. Now, we may be very judgmental and cast away the nurses, but we must understand these nurses work under pressure. A lot of them cannot afford a car. They have to hitchhike to get home when they give service at nights. Their salaries are low. They don't have much healthcare employment benefits. So naturally, they are edgy. Now, that is no excuse for a nurse to be mean to a patient, but that is just the reality in assessing the situation. So under new leadership, we have to get closer to our healthcare practitioners, listen to them, get to find out from them what do they need, what would make them happier, because there's a saying, a happy worker is a productive worker. And the healthcare service would also be subject to that motto, make our people happy. Now, I believe in preventive medicine as well. I think we need to pay more attention in mitigating the number of non-communicable diseases in Dominica. Too many people are dying from strokes and dying from diabetes and high blood pressure. We are living in a nature island. We as a people, we are consuming too much carbohydrates. But again, it goes back to economics. A man wakes up in the morning, he cannot afford eggs and and salmon. He will buy bread, slide a little butter in there, and he eats that morning, noon, and night. There are a lot of Dominicans who eat bread 3 times a day.
Bread and butter.
There are many Dominicans who eat a whole, big plate of ground provision twice a day. So we're taking a lot of carbohydrates. Our diet's not balanced. Nobody's educating us. And because we do not walk as often, we don't walk to the river to carry water as we did in the past. We don't walk from village or hamlet to hamlet as we did in the past. Everybody wants to take a ride. All of a sudden, we have more diabetes, more strokes, more high blood pressure. I believe that with a new government, with a UPP government, we will definitely cause increase in awareness on health. And as I said, we definitely will allocate more funding for organic agriculture and for more field extension officers to help the farmers to use fertilizers in a more responsible way. All with the intention to minimize the amount of chemicals that we consume on the island.
Put in our soil too.
Yes.
Okay. I heard you say that in your speech on Tuesday. So it's kind of resounding the same message over and over again. I like that. I like that idea. So let me ask you this. In all of what you're saying here right now, I see you calling for a revamping, breaking off of what is old and bringing in something new, a new structure, so we can breathe again, we can feel fresh again in Dominica. Because I believe that Dominica has lost its values and its purpose, and we need somebody to bring that back into the country. And for us to thrive again, we need fresh blood. We need people with new ideologies. And I see you have some of those things in your mind, And I want other people to get the message that we can be better in Dominica
Yes, we can.
if we put our best foot forward and put our brightest minds. A brain bank. I never even thought of that before. First time I'm hearing that, and it's like, whoa. You know, it's like
Yes.
you get doctors, you get nurses, you get technicians, you get all kinds of people, and you put them together, and we
Yeah.
strategize and we develop our country.
Yes.
I like that. I like that.
There's no other way.
Do you have anything else you want to say that would make me, the man that doesn't support any political organization? I am a Dominican. I consider myself to be a Dominicanite. What would you tell me to convince me to want to vote for you?
Well, first of all, you are looking at a man who's well-rounded. In today's age, we cannot have a prime minister who is daft or who has limited knowledge. We need a prime minister who understands what are the needs of Dominica, no matter how basic they are, understand what is happening within our region, and understand what is happening on the global stage. The geopolitical environment is rapidly changing. And with my leadership, I bring an understanding. And that understanding, it is not superficial. That is after years of studying the world from a social point of view and from an economic point of view. So I understand the dynamics on the global stage, because keep in mind, we're just a little speck and we need a leader. And in me, you find that who can speak with global leaders and to hatch out or engineer agreements which serves Dominica well. As an example, our current leader has entered into a number of diplomatic arrangements with some countries. What did we get out of that, other than getting some benefits for the Dominican Labour Party? And in exchange, we gave diplomatic positions. In me, if someone were to come to my office in the capacity of being a prime minister, I am not just going to appoint him, of course, his appointment as a diplomat without some kind of benefit to the people of Dominica. In me, you find a gentleman who understands economics. Economics serves as one of the bedrock for any economy and for any leader who's going to cause profound change for his people. Though he may not be an economist, but he should understand the language of finance. He should understand the language of a basic financial statement. He should be able to have discussions with technocrats in every discipline. In me, I consider myself to be well-rounded. And not only from an academic point of view, I have had experiences in life that can cause me to enter the shoe of anybody. I can enter the shoe as an athlete, as a sports person. I played cricket, football, basketball, athletics. So I'm well-rounded in the area of sports. So in the area of sports, which is an important area for quite a number of people, both as spectators and athletes, I understand. I understand what it means to be part of a group where people may look down at them. Now, we don't live in an era where people look down on indigenous people anymore. But when I was a little boy, I had the experience of people making prejudicial remarks against me because I'm Kalinago. So for persons, and it's not just based on ethnic groups, we have the LGBTQ movement, which personally I may not support, but I have the tolerance. I believe that the time has come where we need a leader who understands those things and can create policies to deal with those things. In me, I have passion, which I believe is very important, compassion and love for people. I believe that a prime minister should be a servant of the people, not a master, not someone who wants to enrich himself. As I said, I have my practice. If my focus was financial enrichment, I would not be in politics. I'm in this because I believe that every Dominican, especially those who are in humble situations, can grow to become whatever he or she wants. For me, as an example, if you knew me or persons looked at my life 40 years ago, most people would not have predicted that I would be an attorney at law, because the textbook said people like me, growing without a mother or father, growing with illiterate grandparents, would fail. but my life is a testimony that every barefoot Dominican, every barefoot child can be a doctor, can be a lawyer, can be an accountant, can be a farmer, can be a plumber. That is what I envision, a Dominica where dreams can be realized, a Dominica where people feel confident, people are happy, people love each other. Not a Dominica where our culture is dying, where productivity is on the decline, where people appear careless, where rule of law is broken. No, in me, I bring respect, I bring integrity, I bring dignity in office, and I bring leadership, I bring vision. So that is what I'm offering the public space.
Okay, Fido.
Yes, tell me.
I saw you brought in somebody. Is that person gonna ask a question or something to the
I'm not
Mr.
sure.
Francis?
I'm not sure that person came in. I thought that was you.
Oh no. Oh, did you share your link with somebody else, Mr. Francis?
No.
I don't know who's this person then.
I'm not seeing the person either.
And the person is talking, and who's that person there? I'm gonna kick them out.
So,
all right, so I think a comment. So it says, tell us about the management of your family life, including how you have built personal wealth.
All right, first of all, I find that person to be very intrusive. I would reverse it and call that person or ask that person the same question to tell the world how she manages her personal life and how she has managed her finances. But for the benefit of transparency, I said earlier on who I am, where I came from. I said that I was once married and the father of 3 children, 2 during my marriage, 1 out of marriage. I'm a happy man. In terms of wealth, I am filled with the Spirit of God. I'm filled with love. I'm filled with compassion. I do not make money the most important thing for me. It will never be. I'm healthy, and my medical record shows that I'm very healthy, and I live a comfortable life in many respects, but I work very hard. So I don't know exactly what is the motive of that person making that comment, but I hope I satisfied the person question.
They have one more question. If you had to choose between a policy that is popular but harmful long term and one that is unpopular but necessary, how would you decide and how would you explain it to the public?
Well, it's very interesting, that question. Now, that is a good question. Only yesterday, I was telling a friend that any prime minister who wishes to make Dominica a better place, he's going to make unpopular decisions. For example, I don't believe in having a police commissioner as a friend. There is no business for me as a prime minister to appoint a friend as a commissioner of police. That itself is a big mistake.
It's a conflict of
Because
interest.
it is not only conflict of interest. That commissioner is going to do the bidding of the prime minister, especially one who is corrupt. I want, as an example, a police commissioner who is objective, serious about enforcing the law, and doing what is in the best interest of the nation, not me as a prime minister or my political party. I believe that we need a prime minister who will cause persons to be serving on statutory boards for the interest and benefits of Dominica. Anybody who deviates from that would be fired or eliminated or dismissed from the statutory boards. I believe in a leadership where my cabinet will consist of honest people, people with integrity. So one of the unpopular decisions I would take is to eliminate all these peripheral salaries which are being paid to former ministers and advisors. Now, I would revamp certain social programs, such as the NEP. Now, we may have to make unpopular decisions in respect to that. The NEP, as an example, has been designed as a political program. It is not a true economic program. There is no life transformation taking place in the employees under an NEP program. The NEP program was meant to make people subservient, make people dependent, and to create dependence on in the people's psyche. to the point where in places like the Kalinago territory, persons who are employed under the NEP program are fearful of associating themselves with opposition politicians and political parties, fear that they will lose a job. As a prime minister, to eliminate that kind of fear, certain unpopular decisions will have to be taken. It's something that will have to be looked at. And if it has to be eliminated and those NEP employees be placed in other areas where they can climb a social ladder, where they can enjoy higher salaries, where they can get long-term contracts and be positioned to take loans from banks and so on and so forth. So those are the kind of unpopular decisions. Unpopular decisions in respect to environmental management and conservation, and unpopular decisions in the appointments of persons on statutory boards, as I stated, unpopular decisions in respect to foreign policy, because all we have known in Dominica is the one China policy. Now and then you hear the government, entering into an accord with a foreign power without knowing how we are benefiting from those. So overall, I am willing to make unpopular decisions, and if it means that I would have to be a one-term prime minister to bring meaningful change, not just in the short term, but in the long term for the people of Dominica, I would. Because my aim is not to become a prime minister to sit in an office and enjoy life till death. My aim is to be a prime minister that is going to leave a legacy that every Dominican would celebrate today and tomorrow. And for that to happen, unpopular decisions would have to be taken.
I see a statement came in. Ibrahim built a special prison for corrupt ministers. That's Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso. The person is saying that he built a special prison for corrupt ministers.
Yes.
Is that something? I heard you touch on it earlier, where you said that you would bring corrupt ministers and corrupt people to justice, and is that coming from a lawyer standpoint or a Dominica First standpoint?
From both. As an attorney, I understand the legal mechanics in respect to public office. And in Dominica, like every other country, a public officer, including a minister of government, is expected to conduct the affairs and business of a nation without stealing, cheating, or involved in any corrupt practice, whether directly or indirectly. We have had certain ministers and public servants who have been stealing or who have stolen significant sums from the purse of Dominica. Now, how were they able to do that? In the CBI program, as an example, we have heard accounts of unaccountable and inexplicable accounting figures in respect to the sale of our citizenship. As I said earlier on, that is an area that has to be investigated. People have to be made accountable for monies that were supposed to go into the public purse of Dominica and were siphoned in what we believe to be private coffers. So definitely, we would do that. I would ensure that I'm part of a team where persons would be held responsible. Now, from being a Dominican, you must understand that corruption affects governance and it affects the development of any country. Corruption affects integrity in office. It affects public administration. It affects criminal justice. It affects the country generally. It affects economic development. So from a Dominican point of view, I believe that those who have stolen from the country and those who continue to reap and continue to plunder must be held accountable. Now, I'm not a vindictive person. I'm not in politics hoping that one day I become the prime minister to go after persons who have been stealing. That is not my job. As a matter of fact, the law provides for justice in respect to corrupt individuals. I said earlier, we have the FIU. Now, why the FIU has been ineffective? It is alleged that the persons who make up the body may be compromised. So where we have financial crimes taking place, they're not interested. The IPO appears to have been compromised. Now, how are they been compromised? Again, because the appointees are friends or perceived friends of the Dominican Labour Party government. If they were to take certain steps and go after these public officials, today or tomorrow, they may not have a job. So that is the Dominica that we have, and that is why it's going to take a very strong leader, bold leader like me, of somebody who will say it as it is. If you realize in this interview, I have said many things, some of which I never said before. It's not because I didn't want to say it, because I'm a very fearless person. Sometimes people are mistaken and they think, well, Joshua is soft. It's not, I'm kind, but I'm not a weak leader. If someone who has stolen from the country needs to be brought to justice, he will face the arm of the law. And that will happen one day.
I love your responses, man. Let's this other question or statement come in. Let's say, I can't see. Let's say that you don't win the government but become the sitting opposition in the House. What would you do? I asked based on what the supposed opposition has done in the past.
Well, first of all, I'm not too sure exactly what is meant when it is said that what previous opposition or opposition parties have done in the past. I'm not too sure exactly what that's alluding to, because the opposition parties would have done or failed to do many things in the past. But what I can say is when I was in Parliament as an opposition member, I added value to the public discourse. I added value to the discussion in Parliament, and I added value to the people's lives in the Roseau South and Dominica by extension. And I would have learned from my past, and I would improve myself and the services I offer to Dominica should I return to Parliament in an opposition capacity. I believe that every opposition member can add value to the growth of Dominica. So sometimes you can bring change without necessarily being in government, without necessarily being in cabinet. As a matter of fact, we know very well that one of the settled principles of opposition is to hold a government accountable, is to hold a government fit to the fire. And that is why sometimes people feel that we in the opposition, we're not doing enough to put pressure on this government to comply with laws. So even as we speak, there is the issue of suspension of registration of voters. And we are getting different views from the public, where people are saying, get tougher. Some people are suggesting that we mobilize people and go and protest. Some people are suggesting that we take the matter before the court. Some people are suggesting that we develop some kind of protestation to put pressure on the government of Dominica. Now, all those suggestions are valid, but from where I stand, I tend to be very practical. I look at the consequences or the result of my action, or if I were to take a certain course of action, what am I going to get at the end of it? So in those examples or scenarios, the question is whether should we do any of the above or all of the above, it will take us closer to the promised land. I am very practical, but as I said, being in the opposition, it would be an honor because I would be serving the people of Dominica. So I want to put on public record, again, an example. Right now, over the past few months, there have been a furious discussion on electoral reform. But those of us who are supposed to have been in Parliament to have debated the government and probably even stall the passage of these new electoral laws, we were not in Parliament. And we inflicted that wound on ourselves. As to whether it was a good decision to have stayed out of the voting process in 2022 or not is left to be determined. Ultimately, the past is the past, but I'm just commenting on public opinion. You get me?
Yes.
But my aim, my ultimate aim is to add value. The United Progressive Party in its infant stages, but we have been very connected with the public. No issue in Dominica comes and the United Progressive Party would not add its voice to the discussion. We have been consistent almost every week. We have a press statement out there, and our statements are based on current issues, on live issues.
Yeah, I noticed that you almost every time there's a major concern on the island, I see you put out a press release or a press statement on those things. I like the proactiveness of your leadership and your party style.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I will take the opportunity to invite other people to be part of what we are doing. The party provides for intellectuals, it provides for basic thinking, it provides for advanced thinking, it provides for young people, older people, everybody. Everybody can have a stake in the United Progressive Party, because this is not my party. It is not the executive of the United Progressive Party. It's the People's Party. And our aim is not to compete with opposition parties. Our aim is to add substance to the opposition movement. So people would say, as an example, why don't you join? But I gave reasons why some of us could not find a home or a continued home in other political parties. So in the interest of Dominica, we have this movement, and this movement has a common objective with the other opposition parties. And for the benefit of repetition, that objective is to cause a change in the politics of Dominica, to cause a change in government of Dominica, to unseat the Dominica Labour Party government. But I've always said that changing a government is one thing. It's not just changing the government, but to bring a type of governance that will improve the lives of Dominicans. Because it makes no sense to change a government and at the end of the day, people are suffering or people are in a worse predicament. Where I sit and stand, I have a vision that Dominica can be a better place and Dominica will be a better place should people like me be granted the opportunity to serve in cabinet. Because even if I were to just be a minister of government in a cabinet, I am strong enough to sway and influence a prime minister to make decisions which are in the best interest of the people. And I believe that's one of the weaknesses in the Westminster system, and more so in places like Dominica, where you find ministers are just going to what the prime minister says. Everybody is just following the line.
Yes, man. Yes, man. But you know, I like what you just made a statement there, that you are not also willing to lead, but you are also willing to follow.
Of course.
Because a lot of people go fight for leadership because they don't want to follow nobody. They only want to lead. And when it's time to follow, you see them just draw out of the whole scenario. So I like that. I like that aspect of you. It made me think and say, well, yes, he is a man that is genuine enough to possibly be the leader of Dominica in the upcoming elections.
Well, Richie, thank you. And I would go beyond that to say that if it is necessary for me to step down as a candidate in the constituency which I may run, in the interest of somebody else stepping up and having a better chance of success, I would do so. My ultimate aim is to add value to the movement to cause a change in government. Richie, I have seen people, when I go on the ground, I have listened to people who have given their lives to the opposition in Dominica. Imagine somebody being in opposition, from 2000. Imagine people who gave their heart, their minds, their money, their souls to their political parties since the 1980s. And they had one glimpse of glory or one period of glory between 95 and 1999. And since then, they have been in the political wilderness. It is only fair enough that I fight for people like that. I have seen people fighting for a change of government, and they left Dominica, they left the earth without realizing their dream of being part of a new government. And when I listen to those people who have been victimized, persons who did not get assistance from the government after Hurricane Maria, persons with large extended families, and their children have not gotten any scholarship for tertiary studies, persons who have been in financial holes and they cannot get assistance from the government because they've been victimized. We cannot go another 5 years and 10 years and have those people, these patriots who have decided not to support the government, to live their whole life without seeing the promised land. And that is one of the things that motivate me. It motivates me when I go on the ground and I see those people who have been victimized, people who are income poor, people who are struggling, people who have dignity, especially those people. Because there are some Dominicans who are struggling, but they are dangerous to themselves. They're still supporting the status quo. They play games with politicians. I don't think that politics is a game. If you want to accept bribery, you be smart enough to accept the bribe, but when the opportunity comes to vote out the briber, too many Dominicans accept the bribe and either sit on the fence or support the status quo. And that is the challenge that we have in the opposition. Many people say, oh, do it that way, do it that way. I walk on the ground and I can confess to the Dominican public that opposition politics is extremely difficult. And it is sad when we in the opposition are out there working and trying and sacrificing ourselves, giving up our time, giving our monies, that there's some people who say they want to change, but they find pleasure in attacking us. They find pleasure in undermining us. I always say to people, I am not perfect as a politician or as a human being. If you're genuine about Dominica and Dominica's cause, inbox me somehow, get my number, call me, chastise me in private. But how can you say that you want to change in Dominica and people like me who have not just spoken but sacrificed tangible goods in the struggle, you're out there attacking me? It shows that you're not genuine. Either you're ignorant, either you're selfish, either you are suffering a self-deception, either you hate me, or any other politician who is out there genuinely trying to bring change. You're saying you want change, but you're attacking the people who are leading the front to bring change. Yes, you may have your criticism. Yes, you may have your concerns. Find me on social media, inbox me, chastise me, admonish me, curse me. But don't go out there publicly and fighting the very movement that is trying to bring the change. That is a contradiction. And I find too much of that in the opposition current. And for us to bring change, we first have to change ourselves. And Dominica will not prosper until we as a people reflect and make the necessary changes within ourselves. Too many people in Dominica fight each other. Too many people are jealous of each other. Too many people don't take time to understand issues. Too many people are negative. So what I'm looking for is empowerment, inspiration, support, whether it's financial or otherwise. We're not going to get everybody to support us, but for those who say they want change, understand what we're doing. And if you don't understand, ask questions. So for example, people are saying, why don't all the opposition parties come together?
Yeah.
We don't have to come together. We can collaborate, and that's what we are doing. A time will come when these political parties will sit down and will decide who will be the candidates in respective constituencies. So for example, I've already alluded to the possibility that if I have to step down in a certain constituency to facilitate somebody else who may stand a better chance to win for the opposition, I would do that. Because it would be in the interest of the opposition and the people of Dominica. And that's where I stand.
Okay.
And that's the type of leadership I'm bringing to the people of Dominica. A selfless leadership.
And look, a comment came in. So why couldn't you follow Thompson Fountain?
Yeah.
Well, as I said earlier on, when a family is dysfunctional and you find that the people around you are unreasonable, at some point you have to look for a place where reason prevails, where you're comfortable. No man cannot give his best in a dysfunctional home. If you cannot cure the maladies in a dysfunctional home as an adult, you may have to take some space from it. I already given my history in the United Workers' Party. Maybe that person came in late and as such did not hear what I have to say. But to get the people to understand, I think Thompson is a phenomenal individual. One of the things I admire about Thompson is the fact that he came from a humble family, like many of us in Dominica. And somebody like Thompson should be celebrated and not demonized. More Dominicans should be saying, my son, look at how Thompson Fountain came from a family. When he was a little boy, he had to go to the hills to carry bananas. He had to go to the streams to carry water for his family. He walked to go to school with his shoes on his feet. Today, he's a world-renowned economist. You can make it, because if Dr. Fountain made it to become an economist when he did not have those basic amenities, today you have TV, you have a library, you have this, you have that. You can do even better than Dr. Fountain. So why don't we look at it this way? So I admire Dr. Fountain because he came from a humble family. He appears to be a very calm guy, very quiet disposition. He's not loud, but he's very intelligent. He has a vast knowledge of global affairs. I think that he's genuine. I mean, I give him the benefit of the doubt because the gentleman has options. If it was about Dr. Fountain, he could be elsewhere. He's very qualified, and the area in which he has been trained is of demand on a global stage. But he's out there, he's giving his best, and at some point, we will work together. I have worked with Dr. Fountain in the past. One of the areas which continues to resonate well in my mind is when we alerted the nation that a Category 5 hurricane was descending in Dominica. Hurricane Maria, Dr. Fountain and I were on Q95 for several hours and days preparing the nation. While trained meteorologists were saying it's a Category 3, we had already said it was going to be a Category 5. Both of us taught geography. We have a very good knowledge of hurricanes. We mapped out, we calculated, and we were on point. So I have shown that I can work with Dr. Fountain and vice versa. And somehow, maybe there's a spiritual meaning to what Dr. Fountain and I did prior to Hurricane Maria that will come to pass in the political walls and corridors of Dominica. And tonight I have not really spoken about God and the Spirit. I want to say that when all is said and done, my steps are ordered by the Lord. I have not been doing this simply because I want to do it. I think and I'm convinced that I'm carrying out my purpose in my life. And as to whether I get into the promised land as a prime minister or not, that's for God to decide. But what I'm doing is very profound, it is sincere, and it is being done first and foremost for the glory of God, and then for the people of Dominica. And I have no fear in dying in doing it. I have absolutely no fear. I mean, sometimes the things I say, people call me and say, Joshua, did you really say that? I say, yes, I said, because it's the truth. Obviously, I use my discretion. I know a lot of things in Dominica. I know a lot about corruption. I know persons who do evil, but I won't nonchalantly or negligently just go on a program like this one and say certain things, because I would subject myself to lawsuits. And not only that, I mean, truth is a defense, but I can actually lose my life in saying certain things. So I exercise discretion. You understand? But there's much more I know that I will tell you and the public. All I can say generally that Dominica is not in a good place and it needs to be delivered. And we are not going to do it on our own. We have to invoke the Spirit of God, and we have to go under the umbrella of God to shield us whilst we're on that journey.
Oh.
Last question from the public. Don't you think so many independent parties will give the Labour Party a better chance to win the election?
Well, no, we live in a democracy, and in certain constituencies, certain individuals may do better than party representatives. So if a man goes up as an independent, it has been shown in Dominica and some other parts of the Caribbean that sometimes independent candidates are more effective. It's a democracy. As I said, at some point, there will be a collaboration where all opposition individuals or independent candidates and all opposition parties will have a conversation. I don't think that Mr. or Dr. Fountain envisions to send a candidate where a UPP candidate may be stronger or stand a better chance of success just for sending up a candidate because he wants UWP candidates in all 21 constituencies. And likewise, if we have 21 people, we will not send up candidates everywhere. So take, for example, the Salisbury constituency, which is known to be a stronghold of United Workers' Party. There's no reason for the United Progressive Party to look for candidates in that constituency right now. If somebody has happened volunteers to be the candidate, as I have told that person, there's no need, unless if there is an implosion in UWP and the party would have brought itself to a point where we have no choice but to send our candidate. God forbid that ever happens. But we must understand that politics is dynamic. Something that looks strong today may be weak in 2 days' time, and something that looks weak today may be strong in 2 days' time. So it's too early to make certain arrangements. What I would tell your listeners and Dominicans by extension is to be patient in the process. We have a common objective, a common purpose, and that is to remove the Dominican Labour Party government from office. And as a leader, I cannot speak for Dr. Fountain and any other leader in the opposition, but from where I stand, I will make a decision for and on behalf of United Progressive Party that is in the best interest of Dominica and the opposition movement.
Okay. If elections were called tomorrow, are you ready?
I tend to say that I was born ready. Politics comes natural to me. I don't go in a strategy room to strategize. I have never used propaganda in politics. I have never sought the services of strategists to tell me how to win a constituency because I'm genuine. So I'm always ready. I engage and connect with the people of Dominica. I go into people's homes. I listen to their stories. I connect with them spiritually. I connect with them emotionally. So if an election is called tomorrow, those people who I'm connected with, they will give me support. I have a lot of support. The United Progressive Party has more support than we know. I meet people on the streets all the time, and they say, Joshua, keep up the good work. Up till today, a prominent person, called me to say, you and your party, you all are doing an excellent job. Keep it up.
Okay. My last question before we close. What happened to Tony?
You're talking about the member of parliament for Marigot.
Yes, sir.
Well,
What happened to Tony?
Historically, Tony is a founding member of the United Progressive Party. But Tony had certain uncertainties as to his direction. As a matter of fact, Tony has placed on record, I don't know whether he has said that to the public, but on record in respect to me and the UPP, that he may not contend as a candidate, contrary to what he had told the public at the next general election. So it appears that he has lost interest in being a candidate, at least from what he told me. And he is no longer attending our executive meetings. He's no longer posturing himself as an executive member or caretaker of the United Progressive Party. So I wish if you invite Tony and get clarity on whether he wants to go up as a candidate at the next general election or not, and if he so desires, in what capacity and on what platform he will do it. But from where I am and where I'm speaking right now, I would say that Tony has not been part of our latest development and movement in the United Progressive Party.
Okay.
But I continue to have a relationship with him. Tony is a very nice guy. Tony is very cool. As a matter of fact, Tony has certain qualities that I have as a person and as a politician. He's very inviting. He doesn't hold grudge. I mean, just look at the situation with the leader of the opposition. You understand? Tony was shafted. Tony was shafted by his own senators. They surreptitiously came together in the absence of Tony and built a plot to ensure that he would not become the leader of the opposition. And the public knows that. And today, the same Tony went and he supported the Honorable Jesma Paul to serve as the leader of the opposition for a second stint. He could have simply said, oh, this is what you did to me. I will never support you. Now, why Tony did that is left to be seen. Some people are of the view that he did it because the Prime Minister asked him to do it in light of the OAS ambassador's position on Guyana's absence of a leader of opposition. Well, of course, since then, there has been a leader of opposition appointed in Guyana, but there were some remarks from a US ambassador on the need for a leader of opposition in Guyana. And given the tension between the US and Venezuela and Cuba and the changing geopolitics within the region, it would serve Dominica's government to have a leader of the opposition. And some people have the view that the Prime Minister is the one behind this new appointment. As to whether that is true or not, I don't know, but it does make sense.
Okay. As you touched on the geopolitics there, I want to ask this because it just brought that whole thing to light. Has CARICOM failed the Caribbean community?
Yes, CARICOM has failed the Caribbean community in many ways. In terms of democracy, there has been double standard and hypocrisy in the posturing of CARICOM. Look at Dominica as an example. We have been challenged and confronted with electoral irregularities in Dominica. We have had an archaic, that is before the passage of the 2025 new electoral laws. We had all kinds of problems with our electoral process. We never heard any of the Prime Minister within CARICOM saying that this government was oppressive, this government electoral system is archaic. They never lent support to the people of Dominica. If anything, some of the CARICOM leaders supported Roosevelt Skerrit, the Prime Minister of Dominica. They appeared on his platforms. They never gave any statements against the electoral theft, the electoral irregularities, against the arrest of citizens. None of them appeared to have given a statement against the behavior of SS, in Salisbury. None of them. None of them, have spoken against the arrest of opposition politicians. We have had Mr. Linton, Mr. James, and Dr. Fountain, to name a few. And at one time, I was also charged for protest. None of the leaders have, called on the leadership of Dominica to say X, Y, and Z. That's one. Number two, even with Venezuela, when Maduro stole the election, he rigged the election, he assumed winner, even when the opposition had won the election in 2022 in Venezuela. Our leaders in the CARICOM congratulated him. They didn't pay regard to the people of Venezuela. They didn't say that Maduro had stolen the election. So that is the kind of leadership we have had in the Caribbean. We, as leaders in the Caribbean, we have caused politics to become transactional. We are the ones who have caused politics to become a big money business. We bring in foreign artists. We spend millions of dollars for which we cannot account. I'm not aware that any of the leaders within CARICOM champions campaign finance legislation. Nobody is saying, let us pass campaign finance legislation to make our leaders accountable for where they're getting campaign funds. We know very well that campaign funds may come from criminals. We know that those who give, what they say about the piper? What does it go? About the piper, you know that little story, right?
Well, he blew the whistle and got all the rats to follow him.
Right, and there's a saying about it. I'm not conceptualizing it right now, but essentially, the person who gives is in control. So if I were to take, let's say, $1 million from a drug man to campaign, and I become the Prime Minister of Dominica, that drug man expects favors from me. So today or tomorrow, if that drug man and or his agents are arrested, he would expect me to try to influence the administration of justice. And that's the reality. That's what's happening now. So we have a lot of foreign entities working with prime ministers within CARICOM, and they're controlling from outside. And then when you look at CARICOM, other than the CCSME, the movement of goods within this economic space, and recently the ratification of the treaty amongst a few members of the OECS to allow free movement of people, CARICOM has not really accomplished anything significantly. From an ideological point of view, CARICOM has lost its way. Okay. And you can see from a geopolitical point of view, CARICOM has disunity. When Guyana had tensions in Venezuela, how many CARICOM leaders stood up for their own sister? Look at how we're treating the Haitians. Within CARICOM, a member of CARICOM, but we seem to have a specific policy towards the Haitians. So there are a lot of incoherence, hypocrisy, and double standard within CARICOM. And should I become the Prime Minister of Dominica one day, I definitely would advocate for the usefulness of CARICOM beyond the economic treaty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know something I was gonna similar to saying the borrowing is slaves to the lender. Something I was gonna say that CARICOM, I believe, needs like Dominica needs a revamping, needs a hard push so that. Okay, look at you draw reference to Haiti. Haiti is a CARICOM member state, one of the founding members of CARICOM, and it's been ostracized by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts when he said that he would welcome any other CARICOM country member but Haitians. What kind of statement does that? What kind of brotherhood or sisterhood kind of statement is that?
Exactly. So you see the hypocrisy and double standard.
You know, I don't understand it. I want people to really get the picture that we as CARICOM, if we were united as a body, we could accomplish more in this geopolitical space than we are as single member island states. Because Dominica on itself is a dot to an American power. We don't have anything to offer to America. But as a CARICOM body, I think we could offer more. What do you think on that?
Well, I think that whilst we expect, we have made some contribution to the United States of America by exporting our brains. There are bright people like you, Richie, bright people like you, Frederick, who left Dominica and found a life in the United States of America. Your service is of value.
I'm in Dominica still, you know. I'm in Dominica.
Oh, you are?
Frederick.
Okay, very well. So the departure of the brains from Dominica, the export of the brains, is some kind of contribution to the United States of America. But your point is well taken. From a global contextual point of view, we are really nothing. We in context of America, we're not offering anything. And that's one of the reasons why America has ignored us for so many years. up to this point where America realizes that because they have not been helping us, we have sought refuge and assistance from China and Venezuela. China, particularly, the United States now want to kick out China and its influence from its back door.
Yeah.
And from its, you know, from its background and its doorsteps. So, but if CARICOM was more united, even within CARICOM, in terms of movement of people, I mean, think about it. Do you see Bajans coming to Dominica? No, and then you get a little number of Lucians, little Vincentians. But generally, even within regional tourism, we're not united. In Dominica, as an example, we get far more people from the French departments of Guadeloupe and Martinique than people coming from our OECS brothers and sisters. So even from a regional standpoint, we are not that united. On paper, we are. So for example, in the OECS, yes, we have the central currency system. We have the EC dollar, and that's great. That's great. But the people, the cohesion between the people themselves, it hasn't really worked.
You know, I think if we start talking about CARICOM, that will take us into another whole maybe 2-3 hours. And
yes,
I don't want to bore the people, and I think Mr. Francis, I want to give you the opportunity to come back to Carlos Media again to talk on specifically CARICOM and what we can do as a CARICOM island to make ourselves and make CARICOM develop into a better space so that we can have more cohesiveness.
Right,
I have a fellow brother from Trinidad who is also a member in the Parliament in Tobago. So, you know, we can have an open discuss and see how far we can take these conversations, because I think that we lack in something, and I'm not gonna. I want to go back to this slave mentality where we were, anybody that would tend to uprise or tend to sway, they would degrade that person in front of this other slave, so that they say, well, if he can get destroyed by the slave master, who is me? And I think that's the kind of thing that we have that's privy now in our society today, where the strongest person, they get destroyed, and then the weaker ones will fall in line. And I want a conversation on them kind of things.
Yeah, sure.
So that the people can get to see where our society is going.
Yes,
And
definitely.
so give us your closing remarks and tell me again why, and tell my listeners why they should vote and support the UPP in any upcoming election that is going to be held in Dominica.
Thank you. First and foremost, let me thank you and your colleague for inviting me on your platform. I am honored to be here this evening. And I also want to say thank you to your followers, those who have been on the platform. It's over 2 hours since we were engaged. And I want to express my gratitude to you and your followers. And I look forward to be back sometime in the future. I would say that the United Progressive Party has provided a new vision. It has provided a platform without confusion, a platform which is focused, a platform which is genuine, a platform which is inclusive, a platform which is visionary, a platform that will cause economic and social transformation for the betterment of every Dominican. It's a party that rests a lot of focus and value on environmental conservation and sustainable economic development. We believe that the gifts that God has given Dominica should be used to empower people, to grow people. We believe that the water resource that has been given to us will eventually take more prominence in the world, and therefore we should conserve it, not only for export, but for our own consumption. We believe that agriculture must be given greater priority in Dominica, not just agriculture, but wise agriculture. We believe that part of Dominica should be declared as economic zones, that our government will provide subsidies to farmers who are interested in organic farming. There are international donors for organic and green agriculture, and we definitely facilitate our farmers to enjoy those benefits. We believe in sustainable economic development and renewable energy. So though we have this geothermal plant, which is almost completed, we believe that there are other means of energy generation, and we'll give that consideration. We want to be seen as the job party, a party that focuses on creating an environment where the private sector will grow. The private sector in Dominica has been limping and stagnant for decades. Apart from retailing, we really don't have much. We have a few peasants, not, I don't want to say farmers, but small scale producers in agro-processing, including beekeeping, making soaps. We believe that we can do so much more in Dominica in the area of agro-processing. And therefore, should we form a next government or be part of a new government, definitely we would place a lot of emphasis on agro-processing. We believe we need factories here to convert our vegetables and fruits into produce which can be exported. We believe that Dominica should be branded beyond the Caribbean and be dubbed as the nature island of the world. We believe we must develop a niche. We must understand that the global community has changed and it continues to change rapidly. And we have to find something in Dominica that is going to be sustainable. Food always sells. We must feed ourselves. Therefore, food security definitely is a priority for UPP as well. We believe that the rural communities need to be resuscitated. And to do so, we have to put people to work. And how can we put people to work? We need to bring factories in the rural places. We know that agro-processing is connected with agriculture, and therefore we'll marry both. We'll provide the financing, we'll provide the technical support, technological support, the training to ensure that our people will become more viable. We believe in independence. We believe too many Dominicans are dependent. And therefore, we need to bring economic empowerment to the people so they can feel and live with dignity, not people dependent on politicians or chasing the government for favors. We believe that we need to revamp the healthcare system. We need to engage the diaspora. We need to engage our professionals throughout the world. They have a contribution to make, and their direct input and their voices into governance in Dominica can only augur well with a proper plan and a leader who is willing to work with everybody. We need to continue to work towards a better Dominica. We believe UPP is a place where you can come in, add value, add your contribution, make your contribution, and together we will make Dominica a better place. Together we can do it, together we will do it. I want to say thank you.
And I see you forget the brain bank part of it.
Yes.
I see you forget the brain bank.
Yes, so, definitely. We need a brain bank, we need a food bank.
Yes.
Yes.
So yes. We'd like to thank you for your candor, sir. I didn't want to go too much more into many more questions, but I had a line of questions for you, but we got through some of the most important ones for tonight. And
right,
people, if you missed the live, I want you to go back and look at the live, look at key points in the live. Mr. Francis has been open with us. He has spoken with us. He has given us many key points that his party is willing to make Dominica a country that is Tobago adding value. That is adding value to the people of Dominica. He also said we will marry agriculture with healthy living. So I like those things. Dominica, we need a change. And if there's a change, here's a viable option, Mr. Francis. Look into his party, do your research, see where his strengths are. He said you can message him privately and talk to him. Let him know what your problems are, so that he can then reach out and help in whatever way he sees fit to help him, so that we can make Dominica a better place for our children now and for our children to come. Peter, I want you to get your closing remarks.
Basically, I was going to just thank Mr. Francis for coming on, because, we've reached out to other leaders and it never worked out for some reason or the next. So I want to thank you, Mr. Francis, for coming on and to being open with us, to speaking about some of your plans. I know that cannot be all of your plans, but I know you spoke about some of your plans.
Yes.
And it opened up a whole new perspective for me where I'm concerned, because some of the things that I was thinking of, I heard you relay them tonight. So that is very interesting for me, and I can't wait for the second viewing. I can't wait for your second appearance here.
Fido might be a candidate with you. Fido might join the team, Mr. Francis.
Fido, you're invited.
But it's and again, I just want to, really how important it is for political leaders to engage in conversations that is not really on a professional stage, where persons would be more, wanting to listen to what you have to say. And I like the fact that you took us up. I like the fact that you took us up on that invite. And I know you reach a lot of persons. I know a lot of persons saw a different side of Joshua Francis. I know persons on. I saw somebody in the comment section wanted to know about leaving the United Workers Party. If they would just go back and listen to what you've said, then I guess they would gain a whole different perspective and understanding of it. So it's very important for political leaders to make a presence other than the stage of a rally, other than the stage of a convention. You understand me? Because you really connect with the people on a different level, on a more personal level, where they can try to understand where you're coming from. I want to thank you for not missing that opportunity with us.
So, you're welcome.
To the people who tune into Cardo's Media, please go back and watch the full video. Mr. Francis gave us a lot of information, a lot of things to think about, and we would like to thank him again for coming on. Have a blessed and productive evening, my people. Mr. Francis, just wait in the background. We're gonna come to you in a second. Just wait.
Okay, very well. All right.
Well, this is Cardo's Media, and yeah, don't blame the messenger. Yeah.